Hi, everybody. This is Lee and Charles Traynor on the Lee Gerstmann Show and the Hi Charles Traynor Show. How are you doing, Charles?
I am doing fantastic. It has been far too long to be back on the Lee Gerstmann and Hi Charles Show.
Yeah.
We always change the name on here. And before we get into, well, go ahead and tell the world what we're doing.
We are going to be doing a Frank Zappa album called One Size Fits All.
And this is with the Mothers of Invention, correct?
Yeah, that's true, but I will say that at that time, Frank Zappa sort of switched between being solo and with the Mothers, so that he might have used the Mothers name, but he would not object if people thought of it as a solo album. Kind of. That's what I figured.
I also heard that he was always upset that this album didn't do better than it did, that he thought the label hosed them.
Oh.
Did you ever hear that one?
I heard that about maybe 10 or 20 albums of his. So it would not surprise me if this is one of them. But no, I did not hear that about this. I heard that he did another album called Frank Zappa in New York, which had a similar cover and a different track listing, but the same type of thing. And that the manager sort of screwed him on that so that it came out, but it didn't necessarily came out like them telling him or whatever, and then he didn't really get much royalties from it, and he got angry and they took it off of the shelves or something like that. This was around the same time period, and that guy was Herb Cohen, and then so after that he left the label and started to do other stuff, and then so the label decided that they would release a few albums of other material that he was planning on doing in a triple album release, but instead they decided to release them as 3 separate solo or single albums, and he couldn't really stop them because he didn't have the rights to the albums, and those would be Studio Tan, Sleep Dirt, and Orchestral Favorites.
Well, by the way, I just got some breaking news. I was watching some videos before we did this episode.
Yeah.
A video just dropped not long, like a day or two ago, about Paul Stanley talking about the possibility of working with Ace Frehley again in Kiss. Now, could I ask you a question? Weren't they supposed to be retired?
Yeah.
Did you not hear Ace's 10,000 Volts and how shitty of an album that was?
I
think so.
I actually, the more I heard it, I'm not necessarily going to say it's the direction I want him to be in. In fact, I want him to get out of that direction. But it's definitely better than Crazy Nights.
Well, that's not saying much against the worst album.
Yeah.
But why? Am I alone in not giving a fuck about Kiss anymore? Maybe I am.
I'm interested if they have something annoying to say, but I'm only interested in the annoying thing they have to say. I'm not so much interested in listening to them a lot anymore, except for the first album, and I might listen to an album with Bruce Kulick on occasion.
Or their best non-makeup album, Lick It Up. Right, Lee?
Yeah, but I mean, I have heard that quite a bit, but I still would. I still would. I think that album is close to being like Motley's 94.
Yeah, it was their last great album, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
But I mean, did Paul say something about working with Ace in the context of Kiss or solo?
Don't rule it out. I thought you guys were retired. I know you're doing they're not actually. They're not.
So
big news alert.
Is it kind of like Paul and Ace might do an album maybe without Gene or something?
No, it was in reference to Kiss.
Huh. Meaning like they might do an actual album with Ace?
I hope not. Can they just quit?
Did they say that?
Let's enjoy the great memories.
Did he say
not
that though?
Not necessarily, but it's alluded to. It's
You
kind
know,
of alluded to. I don't know. It probably was a clickbait video on YouTube. I hope. Please.
I would be.
Just leave us with the great memories.
I would be interested in not buying it, but at least sampling it.
I would probably buy it because it's a song with a Kiss album. But I mean, God damn it.
I would not. I would not because the last album that I bought from them was Sonic Boom, and I don't feel like I need to buy anymore.
Me as well, and that album glowed chunks.
I liked it back in the day. Now I don't hear it anymore, but back then I did.
I tried. I mean, it was bad. But not as bad as Crazy Nights. That was the worst. But I just thought we'd give a little update that apparently Paul Stanley is open to something with Ace Frehley. Whether it's with Kiss or without, I don't know. Paul, just make your pizzas and enjoy life. I don't want you to tarnish that image of that band anymore. I really don't. Because Ace is not Ace of 1976, 77, 78. He's not. I think Mr. Gersman could acknowledge that. Just from meeting him, meeting him a little bit.
I was in the same vicinity as him. I will say that. He was about as responsive as one of Paul's pizzas.
Well, there's your Kiss news on the Frank Zappa Mother's Invention.
Snooze.
I know. But Lee's going to post Kiss on this somehow, and you'll watch, you Kiss twats. I know you'll watch anyway. So, just if you mention Kiss, somebody will watch. So. But this is really about Frank Zappa, Mother's Invention, one size fits all.
Give me about 30 seconds. You can keep talking, and then I'll tell you when I'm done.
30 seconds of Lee enjoying his liquid. And this was actually an album Lee recommended to me. We're that far on the back burner on this channel, folks.
Okay. Yeah. So, now I'm done the sipping. All right.
I wanted to do something else, but he said you could do that instead. I said, no, don't say what it is either, please.
It's just a matter of I could have been cool with it. That's all. Right.
I get that. But no, this was something Lee recommended a while ago. So let's get into it.
Okay.
One size fits all.
Do you want to go first or me?
I want you to go first.
Okay. First song, Inca Roads. Okay. One more. Sorry. Sorry. That could have been the intro to the song. But anyway, it's very good. Perhaps it has an example of... sorry. Air in my throat. That's why it's taking a little pause when I speak. One more moment. All right. It's very good. Perhaps it has an example of the type of cartoonish vocals at times that can either work well or be a bit like, I've heard this before. It's the second category by a small margin for me. And it's still something I like, but a purely instrumental song would have been my preference. Once the jamming starts, it's really great. So I do very much like this song. But I think there were a few moments that are like cliches in his category, and some parts of this fit that criteria. What do you think?
Well, first off, which should be expected, musically, this is fantastic. Lyrically, it seems to be fairly common from Zappa, or at least from Zappa's work, because it's very odd. It doesn't make much sense. But it's sang well by the keyboardist George Duke, and credit to him to sing some of the strange lyrics here. Zappa is laying down some killer guitar work on this, to be expected. And unfortunately, I don't think Zappa gets much credit for his abilities on the instrument, which are formidable unless they're actual musicians. I think a lot of musicians give him credit, but just a common music fan, not so much. This guy was a great guitarist. Odd lyrical content aside, this was a solid opener. I like Think Your Roads.
Okay. What do you think of Can't Afford No Shoes?
Well, it's not as odd lyrically. I mean, the brother can't afford any shoes. I mean, you can spare a nickel if you're not hurting, you know. This one is a bit more straightforward musically. Some boogie woogie rock inspired jams here. We get some gang vocals and it works, but the standout is the killer riffage going down here. Another solid song, but slightly less enjoyable than the opener for me, but it's still a cool little song.
All right. Sorry. All right. I said, I like this song, and it rocks pretty well, but my one criticism of it is his humor, and sometimes the way he sings, makes it seem as if he felt that people might not be into what he did unless he did sort of a musical disclaimer like it was parody, which would allow people to be into his stuff more than if he sang it more seriously, which still would have gotten the message across, but less in a silly way. But the music carries us through, and it's still enjoyable. All right, now for the next song. Sofa number 1, okay. Well, we get an instrumental finally, and it's not really a good one. It's unique and reminds me of wedding reception music for a bride and groom who are very sad because they now realize they made a mistake getting married. It's a hodgepodge of different musical styles which Frank Zappa can do well, and it's not as though he didn't achieve what he wanted to do here, but it's not the usual type of thing I want to hear from him. What do you think?
Well, maybe it's because I've had some crappy marriages. I don't necessarily agree here. I failed to mention that the marimba in the opener, it was in there prominent. It's fantastic. And it's also fairly prominent on this cool little instrumental. Ruth Goodman laying down the killer tones there, and it's got some really cool synth bass going on. This song has a bit of an epic feel to it. Almost makes you want to hear some lyrics to it, but it may have gone off the deep end, so who knows. But this is a very solid instrumental to my liking, and I'll be curious to see if I will eat my words later with some lyrics. I think I may. Okay, go ahead, Lee.
All right, what do you think of Florentine Pogan?
Well, we skipped Pajama People.
Pajama People is... Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. All right, what do you think of Pajama People?
I am the Ed McMahon of the show.
Yeah.
You are right, great one. Pajama People. Zappa sings this one and also opens the song up with some very killer guitar playing. This is there's absolutely no way, and we talked about this off the air, but I'll just bring it up. that Lee doesn't draw some inspiration from Zappa's work.
Yeah.
And I know you do. As I,
Yeah.
again, have no idea what he's trying to say here. And that could be the brilliance. But I do hear a little Lee lyrical content inspiration here on some of his works.
Like you never know what I say, but you hear the brilliance.
Right. I don't mean it as a knock, because on this song though, that hey part is slightly annoying. But due to the complexity of the music and Zappa's incredible guitar work, along with just a fantastic band musically here, I can overlook the oddity that are his lyrics. I mean, it is probably the meaning of a life, and I'm not enlightened enough to understand it, so don't listen to me. This is like abstract art, is the way I look at it. And I'll mention that on another track here soon. And that's great. So the guitar work, though, alone, even if you don't understand about the pojama people, is worth the price of admission. And I do not mean that as a knock on your lyrics, Lee.
No. In fact, I totally understand what Pajama People is about, and it's not at all weird. It's just parody. But anyway, this song is really good. Again, even though Frank Zappa isn't a professional singer type of vocalist, he can sing appropriately for a song, and he could hear, and does at times. But the parody silly element of the vocals are apparent as well. And it's getting a bit tired. Still, the song is so good that he gets away with it. But I can understand if some people are turned off by his music because of his parody vocals. Okay. Next song, Florentine Pogan. The music is great on here, and the songs generally are getting better as this album goes along. But still, the parody vocals seem cliche at this point, and it makes me wonder if Frank Zappa had an insecurity about doing something with serious vocals. So far, all of the songs I've liked on this album would have benefited from being instrumentals. Still, I will listen to it and enjoy it, because musically it's quite good. What do you think?
Well, this and the opener's basic tracks were actually recorded at a KCET TV out of LA for a TV special, which I think is pretty wild. Well, for me at least. The saxophonist Napoleon Brock sang this, which is pretty strong, as Zappa's vocals are a bit more of an acquired taste. This is a song that defies description. Time signature changes abound. Definitely has a jazz influence on the song, and it's the kind of jazz I can get with. The good kind, not the lame kind. I suppose this one lyrically kind of makes sense. No, I'm fibbing. And it's out there as well lyrically. But again, like the previous, I look at this as like abstract art, and there can be good abstract art. It is almost a little too out there for me, but the playing is brilliant by the band, so yet it gets another positive grade from me. So it'll still pass.
Cool. What do you think of Evelyn, a modified dog?
Zappa back on vocals, and yeah, this one is just a bit too odd for my liking. I really have no clue what this is supposed to be about. I'm sure someone knows what it's about, and it certainly isn't me. And it's also not that fascinating musically, as it's just some basic piano playing and babbling about a modified dog and doilies. Yeah, I'm going to pass on this one. Go ahead, Lee.
Oh, I said, this time it works. The piano might have been incidental and not as interesting, except for Frank Zappa's vocals, which work excellent on this song. And this is the type of thing that works. It's still parodies somewhat, but done right. It's a small song, but it's still very enjoyable. Okay, the track record of us being hot and cold in opposite weather is still annoyingly apparent. Okay.
Right.
All right. Would I have it any other way? Yes, I would, but damn it, I won't have it because of you. Just kidding. Anyway, the next song, San Bernardino. Okay, maybe we might agree here. This is the way they ought to sing on all the songs. It's musically a great song, and the vocals are the right type of way to make the song sound better. The one vocalist on the last part of the song worked also, but I wouldn't have minded if the whole group sang all the song. Still, this is one of the best songs on the album, as far as singing and musical element are concerned. What do you think?
Oh, let's see.
I
mean, what's not to love about saying a guy looks like a potato? Now, this is more like it. We get Johnny Guitar Watson on vocals, especially on that last thing. And they work fantastic. Frank Zappa loved him, apparently. Even though it's a bit out there, this one.
Yeah.
Would we have it any other way? What's his outfit? I don't know. We get Captain Beefheart on harmonica on the song. And while it has some complexity to the number, it's not the most complex of his numbers and more of a straightforward rocker. For a Zappa tune, I may add. This one actually flat out rocks and is probably one of the best tracks on the album, maybe my favorite. Go ahead, Lee.
Thank you. I apologize for everything that I had said earlier. I was drinking and I didn't mean it. Okay, now for, what do you think of Andy?
Now, there's that Zappa sound. This is the one, this is what separates him from the rest. The synthesizer is excellent on the track. We even get some good old blues portions in the song, because time-wise and style-wise, we get multiple styles, which is normal for him, but the blues part really goes great. And again, who doesn't need to know about thong rinds? Which I have no idea what that is. I guess it really doesn't matter. Another excellent track with some nice vocals about nothing that makes sense. We signed up for the music, and it's a great track for that. Go ahead, Lee.
All right. This is the strangest song on the album, and about half of it I didn't think was too interesting, but the other half was pretty good, and I liked it. So it's not totally one of the better tracks on the album, but there's enough good stuff on it for me to suggest people listen to it. Okay, now the last one, Sofa number 2. Okay. Of the two Sofa songs, this one is more effective, and finally the parody vocals work perfectly on it. It's not my favorite song on here, but it's interesting, and the parody German words are very entertaining. And I do enjoy this song somewhat. What do you think?
Yeah, like I said earlier, ask and you shall receive. Because now we have singing on what I thought was a pretty good instrumental. And we didn't agree. But we get this, and it's very wacky with some faux German sung in the track. It might even have some real German, too. I don't know. So maybe, for me, it should have stayed an instrumental. If this is the best they can come up with for the track. But that's just me. Not Lee. I prefer number 1 a lot more and imagining better lyrics to it. It was an odd way to end the album, and the album has plenty of odd. But a track or two aside, musically it's fantastic and well worth a listen. So thank you, Lee, for turning me on to this record.
Right on. And thank you for finally finding one weird record to be worth your while. Okay.
You're right.
Yeah.
Appreciate weird, folks.
Okay. Later on, we can do Pierre Henry's album, 39 repetitions of opening and closing a front door.
Or Nantucket's double greatest hits album. That would be another weird.
I'd rather.
That's too weird.
I'd rather eat vomit sunny side up. Anyway,
well, we have that going.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
Yeah. All right, but thank you anyway, Charles, and take care, everybody. Bye-bye.